Good afternoon. Welcome to the presentation on the Seal of Biliteracy. My name is Cherie Garrett, and I teach at Dallastown Area High School in York County, Pennsylvania. The Seal of Biliteracy is an award given by a school district, or a state in recognition of students who have studied and attained proficiency in 2 or more languages. Those languages must be English and then a second language by the time they graduate from high school. As far as why implement the Seal of Biliteracy, the Seal of Biliteracy encourages students to pursue biliteracy. It also honors the skill that our students attain through the studying of a language. It can also, most importantly for me, be evidence of skills that are attractive to future employers and college admission offices. So the students realize with the seal that this is going to open up even more doors, especially in their future career. There are basically 3 objectives I'm going to share on the screen for the seal. First of all, again, is to encourage students to study languages. We consistently have students that only take 2 years of a language. So if they realize the importance of knowing a second language, being fluent, it definitely helps to continue the study of language for those students. So I'm finding with the implementation of the seal at my high school, we are having more and more students continue studying language through 3, 4, and also through 5th year. So I've seen a huge change in the perspective of studying a language. Also, it certifies the level of biliteracy skills because they will be taking a proficiency test. They actually can see what is their proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. It also provides employers, like I said before, the method of identifying people with proficient language skills. Right now in York County, we have a huge deficit of bilingual speakers, especially in business and in the health field. So employers would know if a student has a seal of biliteracy, they would know exactly the level of proficiency in each of the 4 areas I mentioned prior. Some other perks of offering this is to provide universities with a method to recognize, and the future goal is to give credit to applicants for attainment of high-level skills. I know there are many states currently that have the seal of biliteracy passed at the state level. Their universities are offering college credit if students provide them with the seal of biliteracy certificate. So as far as students, that is a true incentive. It's very much like the AP exam, where if students place on the AP exam, they often get college credit. Also, another reason for the seal is to prepare students with 21st century skills and to recognize diverse cultures and languages in a community. So again, that cultural awareness component is recognized through the seal. So who has approved the seal of biliteracy in the US? Currently, 45 states and District of Columbia have approved the seal of biliteracy at the state level. Pennsylvania, unfortunately, is still under consideration. There are only 5 states left that have not passed the seal. We're the only state in the entire Northeast region that has not passed the seal of biliteracy at this point. Also on the screen, you can see there's a website, thesealofbiliteracy.org. If you have any questions or you want to keep current as far as what states have passed the seal, you can visit that website. So ways to support the seal. I really encourage you to contact your state representatives and express your support for the seal of biliteracy. Most of them prefer email, but you can call. You can schedule an appointment. I've met several times with my local state senator. She's been very supportive of the seal, and unfortunately the pandemic kind of put the halt to most things that have been happening. But an email, I have written an email which is on the PSMLA website, which it is a generic email that you merely fill in your information and send it to your legislators in your area. Also, another way to support the seal is to offer the seal of biliteracy at your school. Because the seal can be offered at the school level, the school district, or the state, you can at this point offer the seal at your school. Currently, there's only 2 school districts in the state of Pennsylvania of which I'm aware that currently offers the seal. The first one, School District of Philadelphia. They started their program in 2018, and you can see from this, it is growing exponentially. The first year, they only had 22 recipients in 7 languages. This year, I just got the data about a month ago. They are up to 273 of their students have received the Seal of Biliteracy in 31 languages, which is amazing. My school district is the other school district that's offering the seal in the state of Pennsylvania. So Dallastown Area School District. In order to obtain the seal, the intermediate high proficiency level is what they need to attain. In 2020, I had 17 recipients in 8 languages. This past year, it's only been going on 2 years. This past year, I had 11 recipients for the Dallastown School Seal of Biliteracy in 5 languages. I also offered the Global Seal of Biliteracy, which I'm going to talk about the second part of this presentation. The Global Seal, I had 8 recipients in Spanish. So the difference between the Seal of Biliteracy through the state is looking at intermediate high, where the Global Seal is intermediate, mid, or higher. So I this year had 19 students obtain the Seal of Biliteracy. How can I offer a seal at my school district? It really is very simple to do. So what I want to do is take you through the process. How can you do this at your school district? So the first step is determine the proficiency criteria based on proposed Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy. So option 1, then this is for English proficiency because students have to be proficient in English and a second language. So the first one, and this is the most used, is students must be proficient or advanced on the Keystone exam, which is given in all high schools. So if they're proficient or advanced, then that checks off that requirement for English proficiency. Another target audience are EL learners. The ELs, if they don't take the Keystone, which many don't, our school district gives the WIDA. The WIDA, they must have a 4.5 or higher before high school graduation. So if they get a 4.5 on the WIDA exam, that then checks off the English proficiency requirement. For world language proficiency, so I teach Spanish. So my students on the AP exam, they would need either a 4 or 5 in order to get the Dallastown Seal of Biliteracy. If they earn a 3, then they would then earn the Global Seal for my school district. Another option is the SAT-2 or the APPLES test. Now, this is also what I've been offering to EL learners because the EL, I have to assess them in their target language. So all the EL learners take the APPLE test. They must have an I-5, which is intermediate high or higher on the APPLES test. I've had in the past some students, there is no APPLES test for it. So they've taken the OPI and the WPT. So those again are offered through ACTFL. So the APPLES and the OPI are through ACTFL. There are other ways you could assess the STAMPS test, Avant World Speak, and then American Sign Language. You could also have students qualify since American Sign Language is considered another language. So what did I do? To start this, I met with my administration. So I explained the Seal of Biliteracy to my administration. I met with the superintendent, assistant super, our building principal, and our guidance counselor. And I explained the seal and why. I sold the idea by explaining one, the PR, my district's all about PR, created for the school, but more importantly, the recognition received by the students. So, you know, saying this is a win-win, not only for the school, but the students are the one we really need to recognize for being bilingual. I then discussed the process of implementing the seal and the cost. There is a cost involved. Proficiency assessment, the APPLES test, and also the Avant, the STAMP test is $20 if you're giving it for the Seal of Biliteracy. So it's $20 per test. If you give the OPI, it is normally like $120, but if you give just one APPLES test, you get the OPI and the WPT assessment for $55. So if you have non-traditional languages you're assessing, the cost is higher, but you get a big price break if you give the APPLE test for Seal of Biliteracy. I also purchased medals from Californians Together. The medal is $5 each. Next step, once I explained to administration, you know, the purpose and also the costs involved, I gathered data on who were my candidates. So in my school, these are the students that I'm looking for: EL students, exchange students, deaf and hard of hearing, and students taking upper level world language classes, including the classical languages, Latin, Greek. There is also a Seal of Biliteracy available for classical languages. I then met with the students. I called all those students into my room. I had a meeting, explained the Seal of Biliteracy, and I basically pulled the students for, especially the native students, what are your proficiency levels? Can you read, write, listen, and speak in the target language and in English? If they could do all 4 skills, and they're like, I'm pretty good, I am proficient. I then said, are you interested in taking the proficiency test for the Seal of Biliteracy? Those students who were interested, and they got excited, they were extremely excited, especially the EL students, because they normally don't get much recognition. So they were really happy that someone was about to recognize them for the hard work that they've done to learn English. I then scheduled testing for the students no sooner than 18 months prior to graduation. And that's important so that the test results are accurate for colleges and future employers. So it's not something you want to do, say, your freshman or sophomore year. It's something I do during the juniors or senior year. This is the Apple test, and you can see the languages that are assessed: Arabic, English, French, German, Hindi, and Italian, Japanese, Korean, Mandarin, Chinese, Portuguese, Russian, Spanish, and Thai. So these are the languages currently being assessed through the Apple's test. The Avant does the same thing. The Avant stamp 4S is another proficiency test. It assesses the same languages as Apple, except they also assess Hebrew, Polish, Swahili, and Yoruba. So that if you offer those languages or have students who speak those languages, you might want to look into the stamp. Step 5 was testing English proficiency, which I explained before. So they either pass the Keystone with proficient or advanced, or they get a 4.5 on the WIDA. And then, like I said, you have to test proficiency for the second language. And again, typically it's the Apple test or the AP test. And again, I have the cost here of $20 for the Seal of Biliteracy, $55 for the OPI and the WPT. How do you pay for the Apple? There are numerous ways you can actually fund this. If your school has Title III funding, that would pay for the Apple test. There's also educational grants that you can apply for, school funds, or you could have students pay. I am fortunate enough, I run an after-school world language program. And through that, we have 10 weeks of classes, and I collect $10 from each student to pay for supplies. There's normally some money left over, so that creates a school fund. So my students have never had to pay for any of the testing. I've taken care of it through my world language program. Finally, once the students take the test, I then compiled the testing data to see who has received the seal. So if they are proficient in English and a second language, they then earn the Seal of Biliteracy. Awards, so important to share this news with media, your school district, parents. So I send a certificate and a Seal of Biliteracy medal to each graduating senior who qualifies. I notify school administration, contact newspapers, and this year I plan on inviting state representatives to attend an award ceremony because it's so important to recognize our students. This is a seal that I created. So it's just Downtown Area High School Seal of Biliteracy. And you can see, it's just recognizing their proficiency in English and a second language. Now, the Global Seal. The Global Seal of Biliteracy is another way to recognize students. Let me talk a little bit about what it entails. This certifies one's language proficiency in 2 or more languages. It doesn't have to be English. So it could be French and Spanish. So it is any proficiency in 2 languages. It is also global, which means it is international recognition. Also, anyone can apply for the Global Seal. They don't have to be in high school. This is more for college. But honestly, you could have an elementary student earn the Global Seal. You could have a college student earn the Global Seal, so an adult. It's 3 different levels of recognition. The lowest level is intermediate mid. So the lowest is called functional. So if students get a 3 on the AP exam, they earn the intermediate mid global seal. If they score a 4, they would get a working global seal of biliteracy, which is advanced low. If they, or I'm sorry, yes. And if they get a 5, they would then receive the professional fluency, so advanced high proficiency. So I did have students this past year who scored advanced on the Keystone and they got a 5 on the AP exam. So they not only received the Dallastown Seal of Biliteracy, they also received the working seal of biliteracy. So they obtained 2 awards. Here you can see I made a chart just comparing the 2. So again, just to be clear, the Pennsylvania Seal of Biliteracy is targeted to high school students, where global's anyone. The Pennsylvania Seal is intermediate high to advanced high, where the global seal is intermediate mid on up. Area of recognition, the Seal of Biliteracy is by state, the global is worldwide. As far as costing, the cost is identical. When you look at the global seal, they make it seem like it's free. It's free once you have your test results. So again, you have to go through the same process. And again, Pennsylvania Seal is English and a second language, where global is any 2. Okay, any questions? I'm going to open this up and stop share. In fact, let me go to the next slide. If you have any questions, my name is Cherie Garrett. I can be reached at cherie.garrett@dallastown.net. So please feel free to email me. I really am looking for people to help promote the Seal of Biliteracy, since we really need, as a world language organization, to get this passed for our students, to recognize them. And also next year, I'm hopeful that the BEST Act is passed to release federal funding to pay for the exams. If the BEST Act is passed, any state that offers the seal, we would have access to funds. So I am really encouraging you to support the Seal of Biliteracy with your local legislators. So let me go back. Any questions? I see there are no questions. We can stop sharing.